Good evening, Cryptid fans. I'm talking now, but it's soon going to be his show here shortly. But anyway, we got a great guest tonight, Kathleen Tedder. And if you've seen the thumbnail, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. We're just going. I don't know what my other two guys are doing up there with all the stuff. He was Danielson. Bucky. I claim Danielson. That's his nickname. But anyway, he was drumming in the background to the intro music. So.
Oh, I was.
I saw you.
Oh, you did? You can see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Good evening.
Yeah, we can watch. We can watch you guys. So behave.
Yeah, Danny don't know how to behave.
No.
Anyway, I will change that intro. We got to get Danny's name in on all the stuff now. So I guess Danny's going to be hanging around for a while. So just wanted to make sure. How you doing? Hillary. Jeffrey's invisible because Jeffrey is chatting on his telephone right now.
Patrick
with
Hillary.
His other
He
half.
keeps saying he's got a girlfriend, but I don't think he does.
The second phone call was better than the first one he got. So
He probably has another
we'll leave
phone,
that one alone.
a burner, and he calls himself to make it look like he's got a girlfriend.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah, Hillary, I saw your comment there a little bit ago. You watched last week's in quarter slow-mo.
Yes, saw that. Jeff makes some funny faces. You have no idea. Again, Kathleen, I will apologize up front. So, but
no need.
We hope you have a good time.
I don't know. You better be careful, Bucky, because Hillary said that you looked really funny in quarter slow-mo. Of course, who wouldn't, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
true. You would think.
I got to get a haircut.
Yeah. Speaking of haircuts, I gotta get one soon.
Yeah,
I'm
me
thinking
too.
to go for the Chad look.
Yep.
Patrick
Good.
Noble's. Patrick Noble's in the house.
Yeah, Patrick,
Quite a few people.
Tammy,
in here.
Michael, Robert,
Yeah,
Hillary,
quite a few people in here. Tammy,
Hillary, some say.
X
Well,
is in here.
I was talking with Kathleen before the show, and I think we are in for a treat.
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
are going to have some fun.
Yeah, like
She
I
is
say,
a super nice lady.
awesome, good deal. I was a little late getting in here. I apologize for that. Yoder's here. Gary Pops, thank you, Pops, for all you do. Glad to see you in here tonight. And I was going to bring up the Cars song again. Maybe I should while he's not here. There's a song that's called All I Can Do by the Cars, and there's a verse in there. It says, "Once in the shadow, I finally grew." And the first person that popped in my head was Jeff. So it's just one of the things,
I
being
don't
short.
care what you say. That's still funny.
Yeah. Listen to that song. I guarantee you'll think of Jeff. But anyway, Kathleen, it is great to have you here. And
Thank you.
it sounds like from what Chad's saying and everything, and what Jeff told me, that you got a lot of interesting, crazy stuff, maybe maybe not crazy. And by crazy, I don't mean not real, but crazy is like very interesting, and it's time to dig, man. It's time to find out what you got to tell us.
Okay, I'll be happy to. First of all, I want to let you know that I'm 75 years old. And since I don't know if I'll be waking up tomorrow, I am doing my best to put all these truths, all these experiences on the internet so people that have had crazy experiences can hopefully learn and understand they're not alone, and maybe get some realization of what's going on out there from my experiences. And I've had them lifelong.
Awesome.
So
I will say real quick, I never would have guessed you for 75. And I also see there's some comments in the chat that says 75.
last week, the 11th or last whatever. Yeah, the 11th,
Wow.
I was 75.
Good for you, Kathleen. Good for you.
Wow.
Awesome. Happy birthday.
Thank
Chad,
you.
you need a haircut, Chad.
Yeah, that's what I
I
hear.
have enough hair for everybody here. I have more than enough.
Mine's on Thursday. Hey!
Come on, Jeffrey.
What did he do? Fall?
He's on the phone with his
Fall
He
down?
could be sleeping.
lady friend. But anyway, I'm going to clear the floor. Kathleen, Chad, if I bail out, you know what to do.
Gotcha.
I
I don't
would
wanna
like to
fall
let you
asleep.
know that before I had all these, during the times I've had all these experiences, I was also an EMT3, a volunteer firefighter. I worked in 3 emergency rooms, and so I'm not just a woo-woo person. I absolutely had a real life, and Good for you. And worked very hard, I've been sort of nursing, sort of whatevering, caregiving for most of my life. And so I do have a history. I also volunteered for the American Legion for 17 years in the Women's Auxiliary because I love the vets, and God bless them all. Yes. And so I'm a real person underneath all the woo-woo. I really am. And now we can go to the woo-woo if you'd like to.
Yeah, go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Your youngest. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to start. When I was 4 years old, I had two very important experiences that have stayed with me my entire life. The first one was we were in Alaska, and my parents were musicians, and they were gone at night, and I didn't know who was the babysitter sometimes. It was middle of the night, whatever. I'm 4 years old, and we're having outside a really bad electrical storm, lightning, thunder, and all that. And it woke me up, and I was terrified, and I wanted to get up and go see who was babysitting because I was just really scared. And but I was frozen, kind of frozen in place. I didn't know who to go to, and I didn't want to get up because it was dark. So all of a sudden, I look at the doorway, and there's a lady that's glowing. A beautiful lady, and I mean a beautiful lady with long red hair, and she's in this soft looking long robe type thing, and I can see her. It's dark, even though the lightning is lighting up the room, but I can see her. She has a light about her that sort of glows. I could see her clearly, and she comes floating in, and she sits on the bed beside me, and she takes my hand, and she says, "Why are you afraid?" And Now, I didn't know this until much later, but this was all telepathic. She was speaking to me telepathically, and I didn't catch that until, I understood later on what that's all about. And I told her, well, I'm scared. I don't know who's babysitting. I don't know what to do. This thunder is scaring me. And she says, you don't ever need to be afraid. You're never alone. And she did something with one of her hands. And when she did, my room lit up, and it was so bright it hurt my eyes. And I mean, it hurt my eyes. And it took me a few minutes to be able to see what was going on. And when I could focus, it appeared to be my bedroom. My whole bedroom had hundreds of beings. And when I say beings, I'm talking all different kinds of beings were all around me, around the bed, around all the way up in the ceiling, all around, like hundreds of them, which possibly they weren't in my room. Possibly I wasn't in my room, but this is what she showed me. All these beings, there were grays, there was Sasquatch, there were little people, which I loved because they were about 2 feet tall, but yet they were adults. And I was really fascinated. Flying monkeys. I always tell people there are flying monkeys, all these beings were in a all together, and they were looking at me, and they were smiling at me, and they were sending me love. And I could feel the love, and I could look at each of them in the face, and they had these smiles, and they literally were sending me love. And she said, see, you're never alone. And then she did a little thing, and poof, and then they all disappeared. Now, as I'm older, I sometimes wondered, did she open the dimensions and let me see all the dimensions? Or did she take me to a different dimension to where I could see all these beings? Because they couldn't have all fit in my room. You know what I mean? This was a tiny little bedroom, and there were hundreds of these beings. So I don't really know exactly what happened in that sense as to how it happened, but that's what happened. And by seeing them all, I believe that it was to show me to not be afraid, because these beings were going to be in my life the rest of my life. And as I look at it older and wiser, and have put a lot of puzzle pieces together, a lot of those beings have actually been in my life several times, more than once, And so that was the first thing that happened. Now, this lady was so beautiful, and I ran my fingers through her hair, and I touched her robe because it felt velvety. She was so beautiful. And like I said, she had a glow, an aura, maybe her aura. I don't know how to put it into words. It wasn't like she was a light being, but because she was solid, and I touched her, so she was very solid. But anyway, so after she said that again, you're never alone. You don't ever have to be afraid. You're never alone. And she kind of sort of floated, walked out the door, and I laid down and went back to sleep. And I thought, oh, how nice. I have a fairy godmother. That was my thinking as a little girl, you know. That's what I thought, you know.
Yeah.
And then at the same age, 4 years old, in Alaska still, we had a door that opened at just the top half would open, and there was no screen, and the bottom was closed. And outside the door, about 10 feet out, it's a cherry tree. And I'm sitting at the kitchen table playing with something on the table, and I look up, and there is a beautiful, I love animals. So first of all, I saw, like, to me, it was a pet, but I saw a Sasquatch eating cherries out of the tree. Just, you know, pulling down these cherries and just eating cherries. Beautifully, it was brown with red. Yeah, it was so auburnish looking. And when I look back as an adult at the size of a cherry tree, I would say he was about 8 feet in height. But I didn't know that when I was little. And I'm watching him eat cherries. I'm sitting at the table, you know, maybe 5 feet in the house from the 10 feet out to the cherry tree. And he turns and he looks at me and he smiled at me. We made eye contact. I fell in love. I mean, I had a man bear now. I mean, I absolutely was in love. So I am scooting out that door. I'm going to give him a hug. I had the door open and I was out the door probably about 3 steps when my father grabbed me by the seat of the pants, literally threw me back into the house and slammed the door. You know, so.
Did your father see what you were seeing, or just you?
He did. He absolutely did. But we didn't talk about it till I was much older. And I can explain what happened when I was around 9, when he came forward and proved to me that what I saw and what he saw was for real.
Wow.
I can explain that. So at 4 years old, I'm in love with a man bear. I mean, heck with dogs, heck with puppies, heck with all that. I mean, I loved them all and still do. I still house sit and dog sit and puppy sit, horse sit, what's needed. I still take care of animals. But this particular man bear he had my heart. The smile and the connection that we made, it just took my heart. And I never forgot it. Now at 5, my mother and father divorced and she drug us to Florida, and my father moved to Oregon. And so that's how I know my age of when these things took place, you know, because we left at age 5, we left Alaska. So after that experience that I never forgot, but I never told anybody. I didn't tell anybody, not even my grandmother, who I was closest to. I didn't tell her about the lady. I didn't tell her about all the beings that I saw and the flying monkeys that I fell in love with, or, you know, I just didn't tell anybody. My whole life with these experiences, I told very, very few people about these things. Not because I didn't think they'd believe me, but it was just something that was in my world and special for me. And who do you tell things to like that anyway? You know, sure. So I had nobody to tell that to. So now we're in Florida, and I had a few years that nothing that I can think of happened. But at age 9, my mother had she had a break-in, and it scared her because she was home sleeping when somebody wandered into the house and left a steak knife on her dresser. And it scared her so bad that she put like deadbolt locks, these big bolts. She put 3 on the front and 3 on the back door. So there's no way that and a key lock that you could get in and out the door. You can't sleepwalk out the door with these big bolts. There's no way. One is up in the ceiling, one is across, and one was down into the floor. So there's like no way on this earth I could have done it. But anyway, one night I go to bed, all is well, and I hear my mother towards morning. It's morning, and I hear my mother unlocking the bolts and say, "Kathy, where are you? You know, where are you?" And I sit up and I realize I'm outside and I'm underneath an oak tree. And with my pillow and my blanket, and it's laid out as if I had my bed made. It was really strange. And when I sat up, and as she's calling, what are you doing out there? And how did you get out there? And I heard the bolts opening. So I knew she opened the bolts. I said, I don't know. I don't know how I got out here. I have no idea. And then it was, well, we got to go to school. Work, and let's go. And it was just forgotten. It was pretty much forgotten, except by me. I never forgot, because when I sat up and before she got the door open, I realized I felt good. And now I can't explain that, but at 9 years old, how do you know that you're feeling good and you realize you're feeling good in some way? I just felt all over just this wonderful, good feeling.
You said you were 9?
9 years old. I was 9 years old.
She had a bolt on the top of the door?
Yes, the top, the side, and down into the floor.
Were you able to reach
doors?
Were you able to reach that?
I could reach it, but I couldn't have done it in my sleep. There's no way.
Okay, that's just, it confused me there.
Yeah, I could have probably reached it, but it was snug. These were big bolts, and they were pretty snug. You had to really kind of pull on them and work them a little bit to get them open. But anyway, so she opens the door and gets me in the house, and we hurry off on our merry way at school and work. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't think about it. I forgot about it pretty much, except for the fact how good I felt when I sat up, from this experience. I thought, I've never felt so good. And I just don't understand how a 9-year-old can suddenly realize that they feel all over good. It's just a strange thing. And I didn't know about UFOs. I didn't know about abductions. That came way later in my life. Well, not too much further, but anyway, at that age, I didn't know. I just know that something happened, and I woke up outside with my pillow and my blanket, and I was locked out of the house, and there's no way to get out the windows. We didn't have the kind of windows that would open. That we had jalousie windows. They're little glass. I don't know what they are, but 2 inches apart. There's no way to get out. So that was my second, third sort of weird experience that I never forgot, but I really had nobody to talk to about it. But afterwards, I realized I had a couple of gifts, sort of a psychic gift that I realized at that age, at 9. During the summer, my older sister, she was 2 years older, we would be home. Mom was at work, just the 3 of us. We didn't have Dad in the home. So my sister would be telling me, go do the dishes, go do this, take this out, do things. And I didn't want to hear it, and I'd get mad at her. And so then her and I would start fighting because she wasn't my mom, and I didn't want to listen to sister. So I found that I would get real mad at her because she's bossing me around, and I would run out of the house, and then I would sneak up on the roof. I'd run out like I'm far, far away, but then I'd backtrack and I'd sneak up on the roof, and I'd sit on the roof. And in Florida, back in the days before we had chemtrails, we had beautiful little puffy marshmallow type clouds often in the sky in the summers. They were beautiful. And I found that while I was angry with my sister, I could pick out one of the clouds. Like if there were 3 together, I'd pick the middle one. And I would focus with my third eye. I would focus on that cloud, sort of my anger, but more so somehow the anger helped open my third eye. And I would pick that cloud in the middle, and I would focus on it, and it would dissipate, and the other clouds would still be there. So I realized I had some kind of I didn't know it was energy. I didn't know what, but I just somehow knew that if I focused from here to that cloud, that it would dissipate. And I've later, after I started doing that quite a bit when I'd get mad at my sister. So it wasn't like a once or twice thing. This was something that went on probably the whole summer that year at least. And I got a watch for Christmas, so I timed myself to see how quick I could make the cloud disappear. And I could do it in 5 minutes or less each time.
Wow.
So I timed it. I knew I could do it, but I never told anybody I could do it.
And this is the first time that you could really tell that something was different, something you could do something.
Yes, it is. But I didn't.
Did you ever try it with storm clouds to break up the storm?
No, I do that with meditation and groups now, sometimes to move a hurricane away. But
there you go, right.
I join into that. Yeah, I do that now. But I just didn't even realize it was special. I didn't think anything about it, and I didn't tell anybody about it until later. I showed my son and a few of his friends when I was older, in my 40s. I showed them I could do it. He had maybe 8 or 10 friends with him, and they couldn't believe it, but I showed them and proved it. And then I showed a boyfriend when I was in my 50s one time that I could still do it. But now that the metals are in the sky, I can't do it. You know, it has to be real clouds, real sky, and I can do it. I can still do it.
You're like Jean Grey from the comics.
I don't know who that is.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, that's a skill that I realized that came about at that same time period of the what I call the abduction. Now, when I was on craft, I have some memories that I didn't realize until much later, when I had QHHT hypnosis in 2021, I believe it was, maybe 2022. Anyway, I had hypnosis to go into some of these things, but I remembered some of the things of being on craft after a little while of realizing something crazy happened that night that I was outside. And so on craft, I was laying on a table. I was in a room. It was a round room. I call him My Gray because he was like familiar to me, and he was holding my hand, and he was on the right side of me. And then behind him were 3 tinier little grays, but I didn't feel like the little grays were real. I felt like they were robotic. I don't feel like they had soul or spirit or emotion or something. But My Gray, the one that I call My Gray, was the one in the room that was smiling at me when I was 4. And so he was very familiar, and I felt comfortable with him. And so anyway, I'm on a gurney, but I don't think I'm paralyzed. I felt more like I was asleep. I don't feel like I really think if I wanted to wake myself up and move, I could have, but I just didn't, because I was excited that I realized I could leave my body while I was on the craft, and I was flying around. I was leaving my body, and I was flying, looking around the craft. And I took off, you know, to see who's in the room with me, so to speak. So I was sort of circling the room, but I'm really above, you know, I'm really kind of up, looking more downward. And to my, what would be, I'm on a gurney, but to my left, I saw my Sasquatch being there. And I went, oh my gosh, you know, there's my, what I called my man bear was there, you know, and same color, same height. He had his back to me at first, but he did turn, and he was doing something with, I didn't know what, we'll call it knobs, maybe TVs, but I didn't know what that was back then, because back then we may have still had black and white TVs. You know, I'm not sure, but he was doing something with things, very technical things. And he turned, he looked at me, and he smiled, and I knew that was the same one that I saw when I was 4. And that touched my heart. Now I'm all happy, you know, because here I have My Gray and my Sasquatch being, I'm waiting for the lady to show up next, you know, but she didn't. And so the Gray told me, I need you in your body. Could you please come back? At first he was chuckling, sort of like, this is so funny that this girl can do this, you know, and realizes she's out of her body. And so I went back in my body, and then I thought, well, I'm not done. And I left again. I pulled myself out again, and I'm flying around again looking. And further to my left, sort of beside me, was a mantis lady, a lady mantis being, I'll say she was 5 to 6 foot, somewhere in there. She had a long dark robe on, and she had a clipboard or something in her hand that, to me, I thought of a clipboard or a notebook kind of thing. And so I saw her, and I saw the mantis being a lady, and then my man bear, and then My Gray, what I call My Gray. And then My Gray says, we really need to get this done, please. And he was getting a little irritated, I could feel. And so I said, okay. And I went back into my body, and then he put me to sleep, and I don't remember too much more. But I do remember that he took a rod, say about 5 inches of, it was just a metal rod looking thing. He didn't touch me with it, but he started at my head and just kind of did things like this over my body with it. And then a couple times over my throat. and a couple times over my female area. And that's all I remember. Now, this is what I remember before QHHT. There's a little more after I had hypnosis that came out, but that's what I remembered from that experience. And so I actually did have some actual memories, later on after I started really focusing on it.
Did you ever see any scars or cuts or anything on your body like that?
I was going to ask about implants. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think to look. I never thought to look. So I wouldn't have
some
known.
kind of a cut that looked like a circular thing, like a scoop. I was watching a show a little bit ago about alien abduction, and this one family line all the way back to the 1800s, the whole family line, somehow or another, one family member, like every so often, and they realized that there was like places on their body that was similar, like cuts or bruises or scars or something.
Yeah, I never thought to look. I didn't even, like I said, I never even told anybody, It's again, I kept all these things all my life pretty much to myself. The few people I did try to tell, my son or my daughter, they just thought I was nuts, So I just didn't tell people.
Kathleen, when you talked about your first experience when you were 4,
yes,
the woman that was in your room, you said she floated. Could you tell approximate height? Could you tell hair color, eye color?
She had a beautiful auburn red hair.
Okay.
Really long and wavy, beautiful hair, long and wavy red hair. She had big green eyes, and they were bigger than ours and almond shaped, but not like alien. I mean, not, she still looked very human. So I didn't think so much of it, but I just thought her eyes were so beautiful because they were so green, more green than most humans. And like I said, long red hair. And I think she must have been about 5'5",
okay,
5'7", maybe. She wasn't real big, real tall or anything.
I just, when the people discuss the alien races, one of them is the Nordics, and that's the blonde hair, blue eyed, but they're really tall. So I'm just curious if it was possibly one of those.
I may have had an experience at 16. I'll get to that one with you, with the tall white, possibly, or a Nordic. I'll tell you about that one very quickly. So that happened again, all at the age of 9. Just after that period of time, and then not too many things happened after that I can recall. Little things like I might be alone and I hear my name called, or the doorbell would ring and I'd open it and nobody'd be there. I'm a young girl, so I just shut the door. I never thought anything about it. So little things were happening, but nothing that stayed with me.
Have you ever noticed if you have a bump on the back of your neck or anything? Something strange
not
like
that?
that?
I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of. I just never thought to look until way, 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 way later. And then I would, anyway. So a few years went by, and now I'm 16, and my best friend had a baby young, and we were best friends since 3rd grade, and she and I rented a little house in the middle of an orange grove in what they call, it's just a little north of Tampa, a little town called Lutz, Florida. And in this, and it's nothing but orange groves and it was probably a worker's house at some point, a little wooden box house, and we rented it, and she worked and I would babysit sometimes. And then I had some jobs and I worked, and then her mother would keep the baby. So we lived a good year in this little house anyway. And so we're in this little house, and there's a pond out front of the house and nothing else but orange groves, all directions. I don't know how many acres, but it was big. And no real roads, just the little dirt road to get into our place was there. So this one evening, now I'm 16, and my best friend is at home. The baby's not there. And I'm in the bathroom, and I have a little window about this big, and I see something dark coming right, almost touching the orange groves. Something dark in the sky, and I can't tell what it is, but I found myself running out the door, pulling up my pants and hollering, Vicky, Vicky, there's a UFO, come outside. And that's what I did get from that, that little window. So we both ran outside, and we were standing in front of the pond, and we were doing, hey, hey, hey. We couldn't see how big this was because it was so big you couldn't even imagine. And it was just very, very slow coming over the orange groves, and it got within about 100 feet above us and stopped. And then we realized, what have we done? They stopped. They're right in front of us, even though we could only see a portion. And I did realize everything went silent. I remember the crickets or the whatever, the little frog, everything was silent. I remember that as if I was in a different vacuum space or something. It was just different. And,
did you hear any engine noise or anything?
No, absolutely silent. Not any sound at all. No breeze, no wind, nothing. Just silent, and just this big hovering something coming right towards us. And then, like I said, within about, I guess about 100 feet above us, it stopped. And what I could see was a huge, the whole front of it was glass like a viewing window.
Okay.
And I could see in. I mean, I actually could see in, and I'm seeing all kinds of people in there, and beings. I'm shocked at what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing beings and people that look like people. And in the center, the very center of what I considered, I thought like maybe he was a captain of the ship, or maybe he was the pilot or something. I don't know, but there was a gentleman that was standing, and he was in a white robe. He was all white. Again, here we go with maybe the tall white. I don't know. White hair, beautiful man, eyes. His skin was pasty white, but all white is what I remember. And my thought was, I looked him in the eye. I mean, he was looking at me, and I was looking at him. And my thought was, Jesus, I just met Jesus. His aura was beautiful. His aura was so, I can't explain it. I thought I met Jesus for some reason. That was what came to my mind and stayed with me. And my second thought was purity. And I never could figure out, what did I feel from him? What did I get from him? I don't really, I don't actually know. But Jesus and purity were the two things that stayed with me all these years. And then we don't remember anything else.
Had you heard anything about anybody seeing it? Anybody else seeing it?
Later on, yeah, I'll get to that point. It did get seen in Tampa at the University of South Florida at the planetarium. I'll tell you about that. So Vicki and I woke up the next day. That's what we saw it. I made eye contact. I saw busy people all over inside. And that's pretty much all we remembered from that night. We woke up the next day, and our heads hurt so bad. Oh my gosh, I can't begin to tell you how bad our heads hurt. And she had to go to work, and I decided I'm going to go look for a newspaper and see if I can find anything out about this. Now, we didn't speak of it. Here we are waking up the next day with headaches, and we still didn't say, oh, remember the UFO last night? We didn't speak of it. But I went to the store, and I went through all the newspapers, and I did find an article that had a hand-drawn picture of it, and it had evidently left my home, which was still daylight. So I'm going to say it was like evening, like 7, maybe 6 or 7 o'clock, because it was the sun was going down, but it was pure daylight. I mean, it wasn't dark yet at all. So I'm going to say it was 6 or 7 o'clock or so, like when it was in front of us. And they wrote, these 3 professors that were working that night saw it and described it as big as 3 football fields in length. And they drew pictures. It was cigar shaped. And they said it was very, very slow. It just passed right in front of them. And it was around 10 or 10:40 at night. I keep thinking 10:40 is what I remember. So that gives 3 hours of missing time. Because my house and where the planetarium was just a couple miles away from each other. So I don't know if it stayed there for the 3 hours. I don't know how they worked their time our time and their time may be totally different. I don't know, but according to what they drew the picture and put in the newspaper, it went by the university at approximately 10 or 10:40, somewhere in that time. So that's about a 3-hour time that is totally missing time for Vicki and I. And now I did over the years have little bits and pieces of memory of before I went into hypnosis. What I remembered was, again, my little gray was there and my Sasquatch being was on the craft. But what I pulled out more clearly through hypnosis later was, which I remember this, I actually remember this. Hypnosis didn't just bring it out. I mean, I'm not just making it up because I was under hypnosis. I remembered seeing these beings, but with hypnosis, it helped me remember the little details. And there were two doors down. I'm on a table, again, a gurney or a table or something again. And there's two doors down a few feet away from me. And at the door on the right, there were 3 men in uniform, and they were our uniforms, our military uniforms, 3 men. And I recognized them. I grew up near MacDill Air Force Base, so and a lot of my family were military, which is one reason I was a member of the American Legion for so many years. So these 3 men, I'm looking at them, and they're standing very stuffy, all with their arms crossed, and they're kind of stuffy looking. And then over to beside them, across by the other door, are 3 people in uniforms, but they're not uniforms I recognize. And the people are shorter. They're not quite as tall, and they're maybe 5 foot, 5'5". And one was a female and 2 were males. And they were, like I said, in some sort of a military uniform, but not ours, not anything I've ever seen. And I could telepathically hear them speaking to each other. And they knew I could hear them because the lady said to the guys, she can hear us. And what I heard them saying about amongst themselves were they did not trust our military men that were standing next to them. And that's what they were saying telepathically. And again, the lady told the guys that she knew I was hearing them. So she knew I had some telepathy or something. I'm not sure at that point what happened. And then I kept looking. I was trying to do like a clock, look at all the different hands all the way around the room as much as I could. And again, over towards my left was a Sasquatch, my Sasquatch being my man bear again. And he turned and he looked and he smiled again. So I have now seen him 3 times in my life. That particular one, absolutely seen that one. And then again, there were all these other beings in the room. And now under hypnosis, I found that I was on a gurney, but above me was glass viewing rooms, like when doctors are doing surgery and they have a place and they're looking down. Well, that was above me all the way, and it was huge. And there were a lot of faces up there, but I didn't really focus on how many or what, but there was hundreds and hundreds of faces looking down. So
like an arena kind of thing.
Yes. And so that's partly what came out with hypnosis, is seeing above and seeing a little more of the area. And so that happened at 16. And
you said something there about possibly 3 hours. If
yes.
you were to guesstimate the different times that you have been abducted or on the craft, as you would say, about how long would you say each time? About the same period of time?
I have pinpointed it to 3 hours, and I can tell you about how I pinpointed it as I was older and they kept taking me. I've been on craft a few times. So yes, 3 hours is approximate time that they seem to have me in our time.
So same time every time.
Yeah, seems to be very close to 3 hours each time that I have been on craft. And so, but let me back up now. That was when I was 16, but let me back up. At 9, my father sent for us to come to Oregon for the summer. And this is how I know that my father saw the Sasquatch when I was 4, because he surprised me. He said, I want to take you somewhere. We're going to go for a ride. And so he took me somewhere out of Eugene, Oregon. I don't know, maybe 30 minutes of riding. I don't know which way or what city we were in. I honestly don't. But he took me to this man's ranch. It was like a big ranch. And inside the ranch was a huge warehouse, like maybe a 3 or 4 car garage, a big place. And it was all locked up with big, heavy chains and locks. And he and my father were friends, evidently. And so the guy unlocks the doors and we go in, and it is and I can't believe this, because I can't believe when I was 9, there was actually a Sasquatch museum. But my father found one and took me to one and brought me in, and he talked to the gentleman, and the gentleman and him went off and left me alone. And inside this museum was at least a 9-foot. It could have been taxidermied. I can't believe what I was seeing and touching was fake or put together or man-made. I mean, I'm 9 years old. Think about it. That many years ago. How could that have happened? But I'm thinking it was taxidermied because it was so real. But this thing was big. This thing was bigger than my man bear. This was maybe another foot or foot and a half bigger. He was at least 9 foot, but he was a brown color. And so I'm fascinated with this humongous, man bear thing in his place while my dad and the man are talking. And I think he was telling the man my experience about me running out. I think they were talking and didn't want me to know. And anyway, so inside this museum was there were footprint, somebody had made footprints, and there were bones, and there were giant footprints, casts. I can't explain it, and giant bones. And I think this gentleman was, I don't know who he was, or I wish I knew. I wish I could find out who he was. But he had a lot of stuff in this museum that was amazing. And so I literally knew back then there were giants at some point, because he had all these bones and all these and pictures and drawings. He had all kinds of things in this museum. So and I like I said, I'm fascinated. So that's how I know, because my father took me there and he confirmed with me that I did see one at age 4. So I had confirmation when I was the summer of between 9 and 10, somewhere in there. When he sent for us. So yeah, my dad actually did see it and confirmed it with me by taking me to this gentleman's place. But it was fascinating. I mean, I still can't believe that there was something like that out there that many years ago. It's just it's kind of amazing to me. Somewhere in Oregon, 30 minutes around Eugene. Somewhere.
Somebody in chat put Boring, Oregon.
I don't know. See, I don't know. I don't know that my father ever told me. And then possibly, but this gentleman was very knowledgeable. He knew about giants because I was asking him a few questions, and he had told me that yes, he had actual bones, and I saw them. I mean, I could handle some of the things, and some were in glass cases, and I could just look at them. But yeah, this man, he had it together. He had a whole huge museum way back then. It was just
cool.
Wonderful.
That'd be a cool place to visit.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could find it again. But I'm sure that gentleman's long gone, but maybe his family kept it. I don't know. So so that was going, I went backwards a little bit to let you know that I had confirmation. So let's see, from 16. At 16, now after that experience, I realized I had other gifts, psychic gifts, that I could hold somebody's jewelry and I could give them a reading, past, present, and future, and just instantly. It would just come to me, a little something from their past. I would describe something and they go, yeah, that's right. And then I'd see something that was about to happen. And then I'd see something in the future, like you're going to do some traveling, you're going out of the country or whatever, whatever I would get from this. So I did that for a couple of years. I would hold people's jewelry and give them a little reading. And then when I was 18, I had an experience and saw a ghost for the first time. And that shook me up, because at 18, I'm not ready to see ghosts, actually. But I was at a friend's house, and it was down the street from where I lived, and she and her husband, he was just went into the Marines, and he was getting ready to be shipped away, and they were on their final saying goodbye to their family. And her and I, while he was working on the car, her and I were playing. The only thing in this house that they were staying in it was an empty house that they rented just to say goodbye to everybody. So they were just camping out in this house. And there was nothing in it but a Ouija board. Now, I've never touched one before or after, but her and I sat and played with this Ouija board. And we came up with jibber jabber, what we thought was jibber jabber. We couldn't come up with anything. And we just kind of gave up. We threw it aside. We threw the note aside. And her husband came in and he said, how did it go, with the thing? And we go, oh, nothing, and he picked up the piece of paper and he started crying. He was full Cherokee. He knew the language, and it was a message from his grandmother. And that's all I got, because right after he started crying, I went to the bathroom. I wanted to excuse myself because I thought this was personal in some way. So I went to the bathroom, and while I'm on the toilet, across from the toilet is a clawfoot bathtub, a very old clawfoot bathtub. And as I'm on the toilet and I'm looking, I see a baby, a 2-year-old baby girl sitting in the bathtub with just a little bit of water. She's sitting up, she's splashing, and then she turns blue, takes a big breath, and falls over, and she's dead. And I'm seeing this, and I'm on the toilet, and I'm going, oh my God, I just saw a ghost, But when I saw her, I could have picked her up. She was so real. She wasn't see-through. She was real at first until she fell over. And then she kind of just dissipated. And I'm running out of the house with my pants down, running. And I tell my friend, I just saw a ghost. I just saw a baby die. Oh my God, I'm going home. And I ran home. And but my friend got in touch with me. Her grandmother lived across the street, and the grandmother confirmed that a little baby girl had died of pneumonia in the house a couple years prior. So I had confirmation on that too. I also found out years later, many people had experiences, bad experiences in the house, and they burned it down. They tore it down and burned it down.
Oh, wow.
They got rid of the house after a while. So now, now I'm 18. And so now I see my first ghost, and so things were happening a lot to me. It was a lot to process,
And I ask you a question real quick. These are like typical questions we usually ask, but what's your blood type?
RH negative. Oh,
okay.
Green eyes, Celtic, Native American, all the things that they abduct, you name it, I've got it.
Have you ever been struck? Have you ever been struck by lightning?
Can I tell you something that happened last year?
Sure.
Our house, we had just moved into this little house we're in Mount Dora last year, and there's one tree in the front yard, a big, beautiful tree, and it's on the other side of the cement driveway. And I'm sitting in the bed one night right here where I am, and lightning and thunder's going on outside, and all of a sudden, the whole room lit up, and I heard, here's the weird part. I heard three sounds, not one lightning or thunder sound, but three. Okay. 3 sounds I heard distinctly, and it threw me up in the air. So somehow lightning hit the tree, which the tree roots hit my room. It blew out our power. It hit the house, and it threw me up in the air. And I was watching 3 little pups. My roommate has 3 little dogs. And I just took a dive off my bed to grab the babies, because they were shaking and scared. And I just sat on the floor and held these little babies for about 10 minutes before I got up. And then I looked around, and the breakers were, there were things going on in the house, but I didn't flip breakers. I didn't touch anything, but so I kind of did get struck by lightning just last year. I mean, I had the hair on me stood everywhere for the longest time. And then the next morning, when my roommate got, ready to go to work, she goes, come outside. And I went outside, and our driveway was blown into bits. It was just everywhere the roots, where the cement was thrown. It was just blown everywhere. And so the driveway was tore up. The tree was burnt real bad. And I later found where it came into the house. it literally inside our house, it had burned into the wall and into the wires. We had to have a lot of repair done anyway.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
I've been through
I
that.
liked it just last year, as a matter
Now,
of fact.
my last question for you on this kind of stuff is, have you ever had any near-death experiences?
Yes. I was in a coma for 4 days.
Okay.
One time. I don't have any beautiful stories like I met Jesus or I met God or angels. I remember only going into a tunnel and coming out of the tunnel, and that was it. It was just a tunnel, a dark tunnel. But I don't remember. I got no messages. But what that did for me is it started me on my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
What about an outer body experience while you was in a coma?
Right.
Did you have any? Did you experience that?
Well, I knew I was out of body while I was in that tunnel, but like I said, it was just me in a tunnel. It didn't seem anybody else to be there, or that I remember. I still have thoughts of going under hypnosis over that and seeing if we can't bring more out at some point. I have a dear friend; she's in Tallahassee. That she could put me under real easy, and so hopefully we'll get together again, and she'll give me another session, and I'll look into that because I have other people studying near death experiences.
Yeah, the coma, the near death experiences. They've always said that opens up a whole nother doorway to another. I call them dimensions, but that's really interesting. I've talked to quite a few people that have had the similar thing, and some of them talked about, in fact, on our podcast, we did a thing about near-death experiences and what people have seen or claim to have seen. And a lot of them, the tunnel, the light, some people see, family members, it's not your time or whatever. So it's really interesting to hear, people talk about that. That's why we ask that, because I believe that all of this has to do with your vibrations of your body. And that's how some people can see things that other people can't. And that's what I truly believe. And so with those questions, lightning can alter your electric current that flows through your body, changes your vibrations. Near-death experience, same thing. It's like a reset. When we're kids, when you're a kid, you've seen kids that have invisible friends that they're talking to, like somebody exists, and you can't see it when you're adult because, your pineal or whatever has been calcified, or, somehow you've changed. So I think those are, questions that we can ask of the community or people that have had these experiences, because it seems to open up a whole lot of doors with experiences from UFO to ghosts to Bigfoot, all the other cryptids as well. It's really interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's true. But again, like I said, for me, it was the beginning of my spiritual awakening, where I buckled down and straightened up my life and got on the red road, so to speak, Native American. And stayed there. Now I have had episodes of telepathy on and off a lot of my life, but it's gotten very, very strong over the last few years. I'd really like, I don't know how long we've been talking, but I'd really like to tell you what happened here in Florida over the last couple of years, because it's been really amazing.
Go right ahead.
I lived in Washington, Oregon, California, and Nevada. And in all of those places, I was out hiking mountains. I've been to every mountain on the West Coast except Mount Whitney. And because of COVID, they wouldn't let us go there. And we even tried to go back roads and through BLM land, but we were stopped. You just couldn't get on that one. So I have one more mountain to climb. But during that time, I did a couple of things I found. First of all, in the Redwoods, I had a fairy telepathically come and talk to me. And she, I know everything, right? Ghosts, but it's true.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one I've heard this from. So,
okay. Well, so a fairy came to me in the Redwood forest, and she says, you are an elemental, and that's why you can hear me. And I'm going, what's an element? I'm not even sure I know what she's talking about at the beginning. But she says, so you need to tell people, we want to communicate. We want to telepathically communicate but we don't want to be put in jars. We don't want to be captured. We don't want to be touched. We don't want to be bothered. We just want to communicate like we used to do in the old days. And that's what she told me. She said, so we want you to start talking to people about this. Well, I didn't really. I talked to the few people that were very close to me about it, but I didn't really tell a lot of people then. But then a couple years later, 2016, I was abducted again. Now I'm old, much older now, and it has happened a couple other times. I mean, if I gave you each time, it happened in my 30s. It happened, in my 40s. In my early 60s, I could call them in, and I had called one in when I was 14, actually, with my best friend again, Vicky, the one that was with me when we saw the big cigar-shaped one. We were in Anna Maria Island. We're 16, or no, we're 14. We're laying on the beach, and it's at night, and the parents are all in the house, and I see a red glowing something that doesn't look like a star, and I started watching it, and it was just kind of slowly moving out in the stars. And I said, I don't know where I got the idea, but I said, Vicky, let's tell it to go left. And so we concentrated, and it went left. And okay, let's tell it to go right. And we played with this thing for 30 minutes. It did everything we asked it to do. This red light, that's all I can say. It's just a glowing red light way out in the stars, and it obeyed everything we asked it to do. So then after about 30 minutes, we ran in the house to tell the grown-ups, and not one of them would come out and look. They had no interest. Even though we have this star or this thing, I don't know what it is at that point. We're at 14. I don't know what it is, but whatever it was, it communicated with us, with my friend and I. So that was actually me doing CE5 without realizing that that's what I was doing. But in my 50s, when we were on these camping trips and we were out hiking in the mountains, every once in a while, I would tell the boyfriend of mine at the time, I would say, should I call one in? You want to see one? And every time I would ask, they would come. And I would usually get a picture. Or a couple times he'd have a friend with us, camping with us. And he'd say, show my friend. So I'd call one in. And his friend verified that I could do that as well. So anyway, so I've been doing CE5s just kind of naturally for many years.
Wow.
But then let me get to 2016 when they told me I needed to seriously start talking about what's been happening in my life. I was in an RV. I was sleeping, had a boyfriend next to me in the bed. And that dream you get where you're falling, but then you wake up before you hit. I think everybody's probably had that dream at least once.
Yep.
Okay, well, I was having that dream very vivid, but I hit. And when I hit, it woke me up, and I opened my eyes up, and I started to bend, to get out of bed, and I couldn't catch my breath. I was in severe pain. I mean, when I hit, I literally somehow hit. I suffered for a day, and then I went to the doctor, and I had a broken rib.
Oh, wow.
And that made me mad at them. I knew then that they had taken me, and I was mad at them. I was because it hurt, and so for 4 weeks, I'm really mad at these beings, whoever they are, because of the pain. But as the pain was going away, and it's a month down the road, I'm out on this ranch in a mountain. I'm in a mountain, and I'm outside, and I'm no longer hurting. And I kept thinking to myself, I can't carry this anger. It's just not good for me to be angry at them. They're some, I just can't carry this anger. So I started praying and praying and praying. And I'm outside with the animals on a ranch. And all of a sudden I hear telepathically, I hear loud and clear. It sounded like 100 voices together, but synchronized into one, which is so weird. And I heard, "We're sorry." And I looked around. I'm like, "What?" I heard that loud and clear. And I said, "Well," and I realized it was the Greys. That much I could tell. It was, that multitudes of voices that were just in one, but I just knew it was the Greys. And I said, "Well, why? Why would you do this?" And they said, "We were hit with an EMP pulse." Now, in 2016, I didn't know what an EMP pulse was. I had to do a lot of looking around to figure out what the heck they were trying to tell me. So somehow, when they were returning me, they were hit with some kind of a gravitational or man-made, I don't know, military, I don't know, but they were hit with something. And so they literally did drop me into the bed, and I did have a broken rib. Wow. But what they did tell me was, you have to start writing. You have to start talking. Because I didn't listen to the fairies several years earlier. I just didn't do it. I didn't have a venue or a way to do it then. So that's when I started really talking and studying and realizing that there were more than just grays, and and that the Sasquatch beings are also related to ETs. I mean, it just opened me up so much, and I studied like you can't. Well, I read 50 books in about a year, all on the subjects.
Have you watched any shows like Ancient Aliens, or just shows similar to that where other people have shared the same types of stories? A lot of what you're telling, I've heard on other podcasts or on shows. So I'm just curious if you had heard anything and you could oh my gosh, I know exactly what they're saying. I went through that same thing.
I did watch Ancient Aliens a lot, and I read a lot of history books, but mostly I wanted to understand what was going on now. What has been happening now. And I did research on my lab, if you know what I'm talking about, my lab. And I believe when I was 16 that experience was a my lab abduction, because that they wiped our brains, and that's why we had such bad headaches the next day. So I have put that pretty much, I would bet money that was a my lab experience, because again, I saw military and I saw ET, together. So there was something going on that was, in my opinion, my lab related at that. Anyway, I started studying and reading and learning and working.
How many times do you think you were abducted?
Oh, I've probably been, well, when I was in my 30s, I had just gotten divorced, and my mother had my kids, and I wanted to go see my cousin who was a Marine, and he was at a roadway inn. They had live music, and it was during the week, because there was only 3 or 4 people there. It wasn't a weekend, and he was there with a date. And so I drove over there, and I don't drink. I've never drank. My mother was an alcoholic, and it just turned me off. And I seldom ever drink. And if I do, it's one drink. Always, because if I do 2, I'm going to get sick, and I don't like being sick. So I don't drink. So this night I went to see my cousin, and I probably got there at 9. We listened to the band till maybe 11:30 or so, and then he wanted to go with his date and go get a room, and so I had him walk me. I had one drink. Again, I had one drink, and I had him walk me to my car, and I'm on the road. It's I'm going to say it's right about midnight. And this happened to me more than once at the same scenario where they took me, car and all. Okay. So I get in my car, I say goodbye to my cousin, and I'm driving down Highway 301 out towards Tampa from this club, this roadway inn. And all of a sudden I realize I'm waking up. Now, I have never fallen asleep. I've driven across this country umpteen times from Florida to Oregon and all over. And I have never fallen asleep at the wheel, ever. And I wasn't tired. And like I said, I had one drink. But I realize I'm waking up. And when I'm waking up, I look at my car. It's running. And I literally knew I had been out cold for some reason. And the car's running, but it's in the middle of the street. It's in park. So I'm in the middle of this big highway. If another car had come, they would have had to hit me. I mean, I'm in the middle of the street, and I'm waking up, and I'm realizing, and I'm going, oh my God. And then I realized, I remembered them lifting me and the car. And I said out loud to myself, oh God, they're taking the car with me this time. And I remembered saying that as before I fell asleep, or whatever they did to me. So yeah, they took me and the car when I was in my 30s. And
May I ask what kind of car it was?
Oh, it was. I'm not 100% sure which car it was. I was thinking it was the Ford LTD. I had my stepfather's big monster
There you
car.
go. Yeah, it's a big
Yeah,
car.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that was the one that it was at the time. But anyway, so
One
that
word,
I
convertible.
knew. Yeah, I knew they took me and the car. I mean that was, but I didn't know. I didn't really think about who took me or what happened. You know, life went on. I had kids. I moved out west. You know, I'd just gotten my divorce and I was going to paramedic school and, you know, I was busy, you know, working. And so I just didn't really focus on it. But that was one time that they took me and my car. And when I woke up, I looked at the clock. It was 3:00 in the morning. Well, it was more like 3:15. So again, they took me from midnight-ish until 3:15. So that's a 3-hour time period.
No.
And then on New Year's of 2000, I'd been caring for my mother who had cancer for 15 years, 3 different cancers. And I had been living with her and caring for her. And I hadn't dated, I hadn't been out, I hadn't done much, you know, just babysit grandkids and mom. And so I wanted to go out. It was New Year's 2000. I said, I'm going out. And so I dressed up and I bought my kids, my adult kids, my son, a trunk full of fireworks before I left. And I said, here, you guys have a party. And it was, it was property that they could play with, you know, it was plenty of booms and bombs could go off and nobody cared. So I left them and I took off and I went 15 minutes away on the back roads. Now I went the back roads because I knew I was going to have one drink, you know, my usual. So, 15 minutes away, and I go to this club and I danced with some Marine that was in there, a very nice young man. And we danced until the big ball drops. And I know now that, okay, the ball's down. It's time for me to go. And I had one drink again. And I had, towards the end of the night, I was putting a lot of Coke in it. It was probably rum and Coke. I don't remember, but probably. And so I was putting Coke in it so, you know, I could sober up and drive home. So right after the ball left, I thought to myself, shame on me. This poor young man's probably thinking I'm going home with him, but I'm not. I'm going home alone. And he walked me to my car. He was very polite, very sweet. And I even told him, you probably still have enough time to go in there and find some really sweet girl, you know, and I apologized that I had to leave. So I left, and it's like I said, it's 15 minutes. It's a back road, and I drive into my driveway, and my son's 2 best friends are at the gate, and I'm wondering, what are they doing at the gate, and why are they, you know, what's going on? So they open the gate and they go, Mom, where have you been? And I said, well, I did what I said I was going to do. I went, I had fun, I danced, and I'm home. And right after the ball dropped, I'm home. And he put his arm in and showed me his watch. It was 3:50 again, near 3:15. So
wow.
At midnight, right after the ball dropped, you know, it took 10 minutes for the guy to walk me to my car, and should have been 15 minutes, and I should have been home. But it was 3:00 in the morning, and they were worried that I was out so late, you know. So again, that time they had to have taken me with the car, because I don't understand how they couldn't have, you know, I mean, what the car have been, and it just didn't make sense. But I don't remember the car going up that time like I did.
Was there any
A lot
scratches
of-
on the car or anything like that?
I didn't look. I didn't look.
What's interesting is this has been across multiple states.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Every state
You're
I've
chosen.
lived in. Every
You are
state
definitely
I've
chosen.
lived in, I've had either a Sasquatch experience or an abduction. Yes. Every
Okay.
state I've lived in.
Wow.
Yeah. So so that happened in 2000. So I'm not very good at chronological, you know? But so yeah, so that happened, and I didn't tell them anything. I just went in and I just kept scratching my head, going, "How did that happen?" I know I left it at 12, you know, right at 12. So that was an experience that I just kind of forgot about for quite a few years until the broken rib, and then things started coming back at me, you know, and I started putting things together and doing, like they said, doing some journaling and writing things out, and so
Now,
yeah.
Have you thought about writing a book or?
I have a book written all but the last chapter, and now I would like to tell you about the last chapter, which is all about the Sasquatch beings that I've literally met here in Florida. Literally met them. So, and that will be my last chapter, putting that together. I have what I did is my niece asked me if I would just put my experiences, just write them down for her. And so I wasn't planning a book, but I suddenly had 24 chapters of experiences, or something like that.
You would be good with a book, because I think there's a lot of people that have had weird experiences, and if they can read about yours, that might help them talk about theirs. It might help them ease themselves.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah,
I will
when somebody
actually.
talks about something, they
My
tend
last
to
chapter is actually still unfolding right now. It's actually unfolding as we speak. So I can't put that last chapter together quite yet. I can put some of it. I can get started on it, but to finish that last chapter, it's still happening for me. So I have to get it to a part where I can put it together, and I will, and then it's ready to go. I've been sitting on it since 2021. I put all my experiences down that I could remember. So I'm in, I moved, let's see, I left Oregon, 2021, moved in with my daughter in Brooksville, Florida, which is a little town, a little north of Tampa. And we're in an apartment, and I was missing my hikes because like I said, I hiked all the mountains. I did a lot of walking, a lot of hiking, and I was missing it. And in Florida, I don't feel comfortable walking in the woods in Florida. And it's not the beings or the beasts, it's humans. I feel like there's homeless people out there, and I don't feel comfortable. So I couldn't find a place to hike. And I'm whining and I'm getting out of shape, and I'm thinking, I need to hike. I got to find a place. So my daughter, who was driving, she was commuting to Orlando with a job. She met up with a young man there, and he says, well, I ride a bike 15 minutes from Brooksville in a preserve, a game preserve. Maybe your mom would like it there. It's pretty quiet. So she got the name of it, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, I don't know. I just don't know. Well, then 3 or 4 weeks later, the guy said he had been to the game preserve again, and he gave her the name of it this time. So I thought, okay, that's it. 2 times is trying to tell me something. So I looked it up. I found it. It was only 15 minutes from our house. Now, when I went there, I was not on a research. I was not looking for Sasquatch. I was nothing but wanting to hike. And when I hike, I fast walk. I mean, I fast walk the whole time. And it's about a 4-mile hike in there to get to the back and make the big circle. So I finally go there, and the first time I got there, I went all the 4 miles. I decided I got to see what this place is like, so I wanted to see the whole thing. And when I got out about the 3rd mile, I found a huge oak tree that was broken and laid across the path, just like what I found out west when I knew the Sasquatch didn't want me to go beyond, where they would break the trees and lay them out. Now, I didn't know that they broke trees and did this all over, but I have found in my case, that's what I was finding. If I was out in the woods, way out in the wild, if I found a broken tree and it was healthy, no bugs, no rot, and it was broken off, that was a Sasquatch. So the first time I'm in on this hike, I found this tree, and I made a short video. I said, boy, is this squatchy or what? And I just kind of videoed this little tree stump. And I shocked myself that I saw it and found it, but yeah, there it is. So I in my heart, I kind of opened my heart. I thought, you know what? I'm out here. There's nobody around. And I've just discovered where the Sasquatches live. So I start walking 2 or 3 times a week, or up to 4, sometimes even 5, but I went as much as I could go. And I'd go early in the morning around 8 or 8:30, and I would do the hike. And so now when I'm hiking and I'm fast walking through this area, I'm praying and sort of meditating, sort of both, if you can understand that. Sometimes I'm within and I'm deep and meditation. Other times I'm praying, and I'm literally sometimes speaking out loud with my prayers, because it's good to do that. So I was doing that, and I probably did 3 or 4 walks before I found out on the 4th the 4th mile, I found a wooden bench, and I thought to myself, it would be really good to take my shoes off, put my bare feet on the ground, and meditate. And so I did. I sat down, I put my feet on the ground, I started my little prayer, and then I went into full meditation. And I've been doing this for many years. And so I was very deep. I was as deep as you can get in meditation, what they call 0 point or whatever. And all of a sudden, I felt something or somebody sit beside me on the bench. I mean, I could feel this wooden bench, move, and I could feel something next to me. And I heard telepathically, "Don't open your eyes." So I did. Made in meditation. So I said, "Well, hello," and then I got, this was all telepathic at the beginning here. And this female says, "Welcome." And welcome, and I was visualizing a being, but I didn't even think Sasquatch at first. I didn't even think about it at first. I just thought, okay, here we go again. It's either a ghost, it's either, it's something. And I kept my eyes closed like she asked. And I think that she would, I honestly think if I had opened my eyes, she would have left or disappeared, or we would have had no more interactions. I don't know. But I felt I was being tested, so I kept my eyes closed. And she said, "It's so nice to have you here." Sort of like two friends talking back and forth a little bit, just a little bit. And then she said, I hope you'll come back again. And I said, "Well, I said, oh, I'll be back. And then kind of I felt her get up and leave, or get up and, I didn't really hear footsteps, so I don't know, but I just felt her get up, and I closed a little longer, maybe for 3 or 4 minutes at least. And I realized that it probably was a Sasquatch female. But I'm just kind of in shock, and so I finish my hike and I leave. So the next day, I go to a food bank, fruit and produce and stuff. So I picked up a bunch of apples, organic carrots, and organic fruits, and I brought them into the park with me. And I kind of snuck them in because you're not supposed to feed the animals, supposedly. So I snuck them in, and I placed the apples here, and all along my trail, I brought fruit and carrots and fruits and vegetables along my path. And I did that for like maybe 2 or 3 days in a row. And then, so now it's been like maybe a week. And since I started dropping the food and leaving the food, and I wasn't thinking gifting, I was just thinking that they need food. So I'm hiking along, and it's probably maybe the beginning of the 2nd week that I'm in there since the experience. And she pops in and hikes with me. She's walking with me. She's visible. She's right there beside me, hiking with me. Only I had to walk a little faster to keep up with her. And she's beautiful. I mean, this lady she has a human face, Native American looking. She didn't have much hair on her face at all. She had a slim, kind of a beautiful body and really silky looking hair. And then I realized she has a baby on her shoulder, on the opposite shoulder from me, a cute little baby girl. But I didn't want to be rude and stare in her face. So I talked to her like I would a friend just walking, just kind of glancing over, and talking, but not staring at her. I really wanted to, but I just felt like that was the wrong thing to do. So I just kept getting glances, and she hiked with me probably 2 miles. And then all of a sudden, and telepathically, we were talking a little bit. I was asking questions. I said to her, I understand that you guys know, you people know medicine out of nature. Could you teach me? Could you work with me and teach me some of your medicine ways? Oh, yes, she said, yes. And then I said, well, could you tell me about your people, your clan? And she said, well, we get together. We have a special day once a year, and we all get together in our clan. She said, there are many clans. There are many different ones of us. She goes, there are some good, there are some bad, and there are some that have been, she didn't say the word tweaked, but that's what I assumed she was trying to say, that somebody has tweaked with their DNA and messed with them. And those are the rogues, and those are very dangerous. And that's what she said to me. She said the word rogue, but she didn't say tweaked, but she said something about their DNA. Okay. Something was done with their DNA. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, that makes sense. I've heard of some bad ones. I've heard, that makes sense. She goes, my clan, we celebrate birth. We celebrate, we have a holy day once a year that we get together from wherever we're at. Now, I still have not gotten to the woo-woo part. I'm seeing a solid being next to me. I'm not realizing at this point that they're interdimensional yet. I mean, I'm seeing a being, an animal person being, a bear lady, so to speak. And so anyway, we passed back and forth questions and answers for about the 2-mile hike. And then she just kind of went off and was gone. So I'm just, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I might have went home and told my adult grandson if I told anybody, but I think I just kept it to myself mostly, but I might have told him because, he knows I'm weird. But anyway, I didn't tell anybody else. I kept it to myself. I posted it a little bit on Facebook as it was happening, but not too much, not the full details. But anyway, so then about a week goes by, nothing. I'm just hiking and I'm still dropping fruit here and there. And I get this feeling I'm being watched, and I'm about within the 2 miles out. I'm almost done. So I'm on my way out, and I feel these eyes on me, and I look to my right, and there's a creek, a dried up creek bed. And on the other side of the creek bed is a tree, and 2 little boys, young boys, are squatting. 2 Sasquatch boys, males, are squatting on either side of the tree and looking at me. But they're about 30 to 35 feet, and I can't quite see if they're smiling or, I can't quite see the faces well enough to know. But we just made eye contact, and we just stared at each other, so to speak. And like I said, I don't know if they were smiling or just staring at me, but I don't know. But they were both squatting down. One was a little older than the other, so I'm gonna, in people terms, I'd say one was about 8, maybe one 10 or 12. And I kind of noticed that couldn't help but notice that the 10 or 12-year-old was going through puberty. I'll leave it there. It caught my eye. Let's just say it caught my eye. And I'm just shocked. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I think they're letting me see them because of the food I'm giving them. They're thanking me in a way. That's what I felt in my heart.
When you give them food, did you say you just leave it laying on the ground or on a
No, I would put it on a tree, I would put it in different places, but not necessarily on the ground, but like in the hollow of a tree, or a log might be down. So just different places along my path.
You couldn't see it, but it was there.
Right. And I put it where if rangers came out there, they wouldn't see it because they don't want you to feed the animals. There's a sign out front, and I didn't want any trouble, which I never saw hardly anybody. Saturday and Sundays in the mornings, once in a while, a few people would be walking their dogs through. That was it. And then most of the time they didn't go the 4 miles. So I had freedom in there. It was like it was my own little place. So anyway, I see the 2 little boys, and I honestly felt like they were thanking me for, bringing the food. And, but I noticed now this has been we're going into maybe the 2nd month I've been hiking in there. And I noticed that there's no animals in this preserve. What kind of a game preserve has no animals? I mean,
not a very good one.
None. Okay.
Yeah,
in the whole time, the whole summer that I walked in there, say 6 months about, I saw 1 bunny and 1 woodpecker, and that's it. Nothing else.
Well, I was going to say birds. What about birds? But you said
no,
1 woodpecker.
No. 1 woodpecker. 1 woodpecker and 1 bunny is all I ever saw in there, which made me wonder. Out towards the end, it sort of made sense that Well, anyway, let me just go from there. So say another month goes by after I see the little ones, and it's getting near the time where we're about to get hit with the 2 hurricanes last year, Milton and whatever the other one was named. And it was it was about 2 weeks before that. And I'm doing my hiking. I hadn't seen her, but she'd pop into my head even when I was at home in my house and say hi. And I'd see her face as clear as a bell. So she kind of was being telepathic with me, but I wasn't seeing her anymore at that point. But she did tell me the last time she popped into my head was that we're going to be leaving. And she said something about water. And then she put a vision in my head of a river that looked like it was running north and south. And my first thought was of the St. John's River. I don't know why, but it's the only one I knew that ran north and south that I could think of. So I thought, moving and going, and I was thinking, because there's no food here, there's no animals here. That's what I was thinking when she said that. There's no food for them to eat and no water. The little creek was always dried up. So she told me that they were going to be leaving. So I wasn't really expecting to see them at all. And this, like I said, this is just about barely 2 weeks before the hurricanes. Almost through my hike, and I can see my car. So I'm
sure hope not.
500 yards from my car. I see my car. So I'm almost out, and I get this sound, this electrical, this humming sound, and the hair on my body stands up.
Like
and
a buzz?
I'm hearing this noise, and it's really crazy. It's just heavy electrical sounds, as if I'm underneath the big electrical lines or something. And I look to my left, and about, I'm going to say 20 to 30 feet away from me, I see one big tree, and I see a Sasquatch male. The father is standing there. He has one hand up. I don't know if he was waving at me because I couldn't quite see his face again. He's just far enough away. I wasn't real sure what I was seeing. But what I was seeing is between him, the half that I could see, which was half of him, and the half that I couldn't see was sort of like, I don't like to use the word predator movie, but it was something similar to that. He was like half invisible. I kept calling it pixelated, whatever that meant. I kept feeling like he was pixelated, and then he was connected to the tree. So it was like a portal, like he was coming out of a tree portal, and he wanted to say hi to me or let me meet him or whatever. And I just stood there frozen. I wasn't afraid. I never had any fear, and never did I have fear. I was just shocked because I was seeing this interdimensional being that I had no idea at that point. I didn't know that they were interdimensional. I didn't know that they could do these other things at that point. Now, this was just 2024, just, not long ago. So anyway, he stayed like that for quite a little while. I was frozen. Like I said, all my hair is standing up. I'm still hearing the hum. And I go, oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me meet you. And, I kind of gave him some telepathy, and I didn't really get much back from him other than kindness. I just felt like he was a kind man, and he was the father, and he wanted me to see him. So I did. And then I took off to my car, and I was almost in tears when I got in my car of joy, of like, oh my God, I have met a whole family of Sasquatch beings, solid as you and me, and then not solid, which was really throwing me for a loop because I didn't know at that point. And that was just 2024. I hadn't studied enough. I hadn't done enough to know about all the woo-woo that goes along with the Sasquatch beings at that point. I started learning right then and there after that experience. I read, Ron Moorhead's books and all the books with the woo-woo. And then it started making sense to me. It really did. And, so I actually got to see all of them. And then the 2 hurricanes hit, and that little park got almost pretty destroyed. They closed it, and I couldn't get back in for over 6 months. So I thought we were done. I thought they were gone. He was saying goodbye, as maybe that's why that he was up. I didn't know. And but then I moved to Mount Dora a year ago, and I'm driving between Mount Dora and Tampa to my doctor's offices. They're all still over that way. And I'm on this one road, 471, a highway 471, about 2 miles away from, and I don't know which side of I was on, from the Tampa side or the Mount Dora side, but 2 miles ish away from Highway 50. So 471 and 50. And I get my lady, Sasquatch lady that I met, she popped into my head and she says, "Welcome." And 2 other lady Sasquatch beings were with her. So I see three beings in my head. I'm driving down the road and I, oh, thank you, welcome. And I said out loud, I said, "Hello, I love you." And it just popped out. "I love you," just, I don't know how it popped out, but in my head, and there was big smiles on their faces. And then I got this urge to look to the right further, and there was a huge tree that was broken about at least 12 feet up, a beautiful big pine tree. And I could tell that she wanted me to look at that. So when I looked at it, at first it looked like a pyramid, a giant pyramid, on the side of the road. And I'm thinking, I'm seeing a pyramid? What? What am I seeing? But then as I got closer, I realized it was just a big triangle. It was actually, the way it was broken was like in a triangle, but I could see that there was a path. She was sort of letting me see a path to come in to meet them. And then as I kept driving, there's no place to pull off. You can't stop your car. You can't, you can't do anything. And I did have a doctor's appointment. So I kept going, but I kept looking. And then I saw 2 more trees broken and in a pyramid type shape or triangle shape. And I found trails, like game trails, in behind those as well. So I felt that the 3 ladies that had popped into my head to say hello were inviting me in to meet them. I absolutely felt that way. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop, and there's nowhere to stop. So again, my lady isn't gone. She's just moved, and now I posted it on Mid Florida Bigfoot group, and Marie told me that's considered the Green Swamp area, which I didn't know about the Green Swamp area. So that's where that is, and so I had that experience. And then about a month later on a doctor's visit again, same road, I had a young male about in his young 20s ish. What I feel is, I'm going by human time. I don't really know how old, but he seemed like a young 20, and he was from a different clan, and he was on the opposite side of the street. He pops into my head and goes, "Hello, welcome." And I'm driving down the road, and of course I do the same thing. I start looking to see if I see the trails, the game trails. And sure enough, there was 2 or 3 game trails. They were almost hidden. If he hadn't popped into my head, I would never have seen them ever, but they were kind of hidden the way they were. But anyway, well, thank you. And thank you for welcoming me. And, I'm trying to talk back and forth with him a little bit. So that happened, and I come home and I'm telling everybody, "Oh my gosh, I met another one out of a different clan, but very similar, looked similar." And he was black, and also all 3 of the males from the family were black, but the females were brown. The little baby girl was brown, and the mother was more brown, chocolate, like a light chocolate, milk chocolate brown. But this gentleman that popped into my head to welcome me was black. So then about another month goes by, and I'm back to the doctor's again, and I got hit with a 3rd time, and this one was older, but it was a male again, and he popped in, and they always come in with welcome. I mean, I'm like, wow. So I see this older male that popped into my head on that same highway, going on that same path, and he was just there briefly. And I said, "Oh, you're from a different clan." And he goes, "Yes, yes, ma'am, I'm from a different clan." But so now I have 3 clans of these beings that have connected with me just since 2024. So this is part of my last chapter that I have to put together with the other little events that happened while I was in the mountains, when they'd throw pine cones at me, or I'd feel being watched, or I'd hear the tree knocks that I didn't know about. And so anyway, I have a whole chapter of putting it all together now, and then that'll be the last chapter in the book. And I also have a friend who's putting a movie together who had a up close and personal experience with a whole football team of them, so to speak, and they weren't friendly ones. They came out of a UFO, and he had to run for his life. And so I'm helping him with his movie and putting some stuff together. And then it's almost done. It'll be done by the end of summer. And once we get that done, then I can put it all together. The whole chapter will be finalized. So they definitely have some connection with ET. I mean, I knew it, but I never really put it together with,
I don't know what it is.
Anyway. So that'll be my last chapter, putting the Sasquatch beings that have come to me. And she still pops into my head every so often, not necessarily when I'm in my car, just when I'm sort of relaxing or whatever. So, and as far as my last abduction, it's been a while. Thank God.
Yeah, I bet.
It's been a little while. It was here in Florida, though. It was when I maybe the first year or the second year I came here. I was driving my car from Tampa to Brooksville, and I saw my exit coming. And when you hit this big lake, the exit is 1 mile down the road from the lake. And I see the lake, and I go, "Oh, okay." So my exit's coming up, and I'm driving, and I'm driving, and I'm driving, and I'm going, "Where's my exit?" And I turn and I look, and there's the lake again. Somehow they took me and put me back, but they put me back before.
In the same place.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah. And I was aware. I was consciously aware, but I don't know how long they had me. It wasn't, I didn't look at time to realize if it was short and sweet or if it had been, I mean, I didn't even think to look at the time. I was just shocked that, oh my God, I went by this lake already, and it wasn't like deja vu. It was really different than that. I thought it was a glitch in the matrix or something at first. And then all my friends that have been abducted said, "No, girl, you were abducted again." And the more I think about it, that's what happened. So I was abducted here in Florida. So I think that was the last time that I know of.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting book to read for sure. I think a lot of people will enjoy that.
Oh, yes. There's so much. There's a lot more in there. A lot more. More ghosts.
I was going to say, we'll definitely have to have you on for part 2.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, because we got to know the ghosts.
Real quick.
I have a beautiful ghost story that's a love story that I actually posted on Facebook, and a girl asked me, she was a writer, and she said, "Can I put your story in my book?" It's called True Ghost Stories Volume 2, in case you ever want to find it. And It's called Gloria and Carl, or Carl and Gloria. I don't know which. And it's a true story. And I can tell you now if you have time, but if you don't, we can save it.
We'll save that for episode number 2.
It's a beautiful love story. Yes, I'd love to tell that later.
Jerry, you started to say something?
I was just wanting to know if I'm too loud, if you're still hearing noise in the background, because I have no idea what it is.
You're loud, but you're not as loud as you were.
Right.
I don't hear a noise in the background right now. So that's good.
Yeah. I have no idea.
Hillary has a question. So Kathleen, did any of them ever give you a reason that you were abducted so many times?
Yes. I asked my gray after the broken rib, and they took me at some point after that. And I said, I feel like I'm betraying humanity by cooperating. Am I doing something that I'm harming my fellow humans by accepting and being, allowing this? I mean, should I be upset? I mean, something I need to understand. Why am I being taken? And they said that they were trying to, well, two things. First, they're trying to help our bodies, our DNA. They're trying to do something with our bodies for our good, for our benefit. I'm not sure exactly what, but something good for mankind. So that was the one thing. And the other thing was that they wanted me to They wanted me to talk about being telepathic so that they can communicate. They want to land. They want to be here, but they don't want the government to be in charge. They don't want to deal with our government. They don't want our military.
Who
They
does?
want people like me, just simpletons, just simple people like me. They want me and others like me that have had experiences to be the ones to welcome them and help them integrate into society. And they are coming. And I keep feeling like it's going to be like within 2 years.
Like the TV show V.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally feel like they're here. They're around us. We don't see them, but they're here now anyway. But I feel like, yeah, they're coming. It's going to be a time that's going to be like the Jetsons pretty soon.
Well, very cool. Very cool.
But
Very interesting story and very interesting lifespan.
I asked them, am I going against my fellow humans? Am I doing something bad, by allowing and being friendly and accepting that you take me? I mean, it weighed heavy on me. I thought maybe they are our enemy. Maybe they are taking over. I don't know what they're really doing. So I kind of questioned them, and that's what I got, is they were trying to tweak our DNA to a point where something good will be coming out of this. I don't know if it's for everybody or for certain DNA types or certain blood types. I don't know, but somehow they're trying to do something good for us.
Yeah, cool.
And they do want to communicate. As they told me, they actually told me, we'd like you to teach people telepathy. I said, what? I don't know how to, I do it, but I don't know how. And I don't know how to teach people except to tell them to shut up and listen.
That's the best way right there, right?
What I told them. I said, just tell them to shut up and listen.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, that's awesome. Thanks so much for everything you've shared. We look forward to having you for some ghosts this next time.
Okay.
Well, I think Jeff got a hold of you before, right? Was it Jeff that got a hold of you?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, he's okay. There, I see an eye, so he is partially awake.
That's because I called him to wake him up. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, Kathleen. Excellent stuff.
Thank you so much for letting me put my truth out here. It's important to me. Like I said, at my age, I don't know how much longer I get to wake up and share these experiences. So for me, it's wonderful.
Well, you've got some people in chat that are looking forward to your book. So
okay. Yeah. And if anybody wants to find me, I'm on Facebook. I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't have a lot of stuff on it there yet.
Yeah, Hillary from chat's been sharing your channel.
Oh, bless her heart. Bless her heart. I would love to get more people and find somebody to help me get my videos on there, but all my videos are on Facebook, and I have a couple group channels on Facebook as well. So you'll find me there mostly. And all my stories are written there somewhere.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Thank you, Hillary.
Yeah, she shared your channel like quite a few times tonight, so everybody should know where you're located.
Okay, good.
Yeah. It was up there quite a few times. We appreciate everybody being here. I apologize for whatever audio problems suddenly popped up here.
Gary, it sounded like you had your washing machine on.
There's nothing on.
For once, it wasn't Jeff snoring, so we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what that.
There we go. Yep. That's Danny.
Yep, pretty much.
It's not my Hemi. It's not my
not the Hemi.
10-4. Okay, well, I guess we'll be back next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. So, who we got, Jeff? I don't know yet.
Next week we have.
Yes, you do know.
We have another Pale Crawler episode.
Pale Crawler, oh boy.
Pale Crawler witness, Missy Sterling.
Okay. Yes, a lot of information. Kathleen, just superb. Can't wait to have you back on.
Well, thank you. Anytime you're ready, I'm ready. I'm open to do these anytime.
Jeff,
because like I said, this is how I'm getting my truth out there. So.
Yep. Get it booked, Jeff. Boy, somebody's got a loud phone.
That's Danny.
That was mine. I'm sorry.
Anyway, For the rest of y'all, we appreciate you. Big love and chat, man. And we'll be back next Tuesday.
Good night, everybody.
Right? Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody.
Hey, everybody. I'm actually going to go to bed and not sleep in my chair tonight.
Thanks for that information, Jeff. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. See you, everybody.
Night, guys.